Hello, welcome to the Squarebase Show. We're your hosts, Rob and Val, and we're going to be talking about the old world in this episode. Oh my God, North America's largest old world event, or at least Canada's, and
Probably.
what happened.
We crushed SoCal, though. Frontline Gaming ran the SoCal Open this weekend. We dummied those guys.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
How many did they have?
Yeah, I don't know, like a handful. They had 14 or so.
Oh, that's still good, though. Listen, if you're playing Old World anywhere out there in the world, Old World in the New World, then you should be having a great time because you're the best.
There was a great thread where it was there's an AOS player at SoCal, and he posted in my favorite Facebook group, the Old World, where I'm an all-star contributor somehow. By the way, that's the thing that you can get on Facebook now. I'm very, very proud, which is funny because they delete my posts. But there was just someone who posted like, I was playing AOS at SoCal and I saw the Old World event, and y'all need to show up.
Oh, whoa. Whoa. Okay, that's pretty aggressive. I'm going to speak to those people. I'm going to speak to those people. Okay, I'm going to get the community in order. I'm going to be like, you need to stop that. Whoever said that, get that shit out of here. It
actually resulted in a shocking amount of comments from the Old World players like, yeah, we do need to show up. So that was good. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
That's a positive. I'd like it if more Old World players showed up. That would be good. But today's episode, if you are listening, is us discussing this weekend's Old World event. There should have been a video from the event made by me, yours truly. But just to kind of like not blow the lead, but I was pretty sick. And as if you watched last week's video on the Wednesday, I was meant to be traveling on the Thursday. And it was only late on the Wednesday when I was like, buddy, I think I might be too sick to travel.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, when I revealed to everyone, that you weren't there, there was nothing but relief. I'm not going to lie, because most people were like, oh, thank goodness. He looked terrible.
Just how I normally look.
But also there was a certain edge to your sick personality last week. And that would have been a greater lack of taste than usual, I would say.
Wow, rude, but understandable. Yeah, so I want to apologize, everyone, in the Canadian/American community. I didn't get out there, and obviously, like on a personal note, it was actually super disappointing, like devastating, and I didn't get to spend time with you and the family, which I was really devastated about. And then, but in what turned out to be, because I was pretty certain I did several COVID tests, and I'm pretty certain I had rampant COVID because I had all the hallmarks. There was a funny moment on Thursday where I called Val because I was doing some stuff, and then I was just like delirious, and I was like, buddy, I was like really sad, but at that point I was like, fuck you, I'm so glad I'm not there, I'm so ill. I just went back to sleep.
It was absolutely the right call. We definitely missed you, of course, and the next one, I'm already looking into the next one, so.
Okay,
we'll make sure that one happens.
That's what today's show is going to be about. We're going to be talking about like the lead up, what happened at the event. We're going to be looking at some cool picture shots. We're going to be talking about like the meta a little bit. Val also got to play, so that's a fun thing that he got to do. So we can discuss all those things, which is going to be super fun. I just thought I'd pop out some news before we got any further. So like we have
news.
Well, we got news about the SBot. Let's talk about that. Massive numbers.
Oh, geez, Louise, the SBot. SBot 2 is launched. It's off the ground.
Could you quickly recap what SBot is, just for people who might not know?
The Squarebase online tournament brought to you by Sexy Hugo from Warhol.eu.
Very sexy.
It's a international online event. We're doing 7 rounds. First 3 rounds seed basically some a top 16 that will be international for an international Old World online championship. And then we'll have a bunch of regional championships for sort of Europe, the Americas, and down under. And it's amazing. I think last time when we did this, we went like we started the tournament with, I want to say, around 100 people after we had some initial drops. This time we had an initial sign up around 140 people, and we have probably gotten down to around 130, with still people, just a bunch of zombies bumping into the windows right now trying to get in. And just really need to shout out some incredible patrons, members of our community, Tito Man and Os, and of course Hugo, my friend Swaco, on the Patreon. These guys have really been the ones who've done the lifting and helped get this thing going. It's been incredible. I myself have been a little bit turtled from the Discord, just due to well, you shouldn't run one of the largest in-person events and then try and launch one of, like, certainly the largest online event on the same day. It was stupid.
I did think that, you know, when the show ended last week, I went, wow, that man's doing a lot. Like,
again, I am just I'm being carried, and it's this awesome community that has sprung up around the show and this game. That goes for not just the online stuff, but as we'll get into the real life stuff too. So like it's been super cool, and the spirit seems to be there. Games are popping off. I think all of the pods. There's basically 8 pods, based on where we got people from. We're roughly, I don't know, probably something like 2/3. Well, probably, yeah, something like 2/3 North America or at least Western Hemisphere, and then 1/3 Europe and the UK, and then a smattering of down under.
Can I say that is actually quite interesting, because one of the things that came up when I think the reason I got sick was the week before the Canadian event. I was in the US at an AOS event, and like, I don't know, I kept telling the guys, I was like, look, AOS, like, Old World's doing so well, it's so popular, and they were like, no, it can't be, it's dead in my area. I'm like, I don't understand that. So now hearing that 2/3 of the signups are also from the US, it could be that obviously the US is quite like separated out, obviously. Like NA is, like, you know, very separate, same with like Canada and not Australia and stuff, although Australia just had its own Old World event as well. They got another one coming up. But like, go on.
Also, I say North America, but also let's be based here. Like, I was definitely talking to somebody who changed from one time zone to another, and they were from Peru. So it's really, you know, Western Hemisphere. There's definitely folks from all over. You know, the time zones stretch north to south, so it's not just those places that I named them. Got to come up with better names, but. Yeah, like, yes, definitely lots of folks from the United States, Canada, lots of people in the Ontario region who hopped right out of the SBO Toronto and into the SBOT 2. So yeah, it's amazing, the participation we're seeing all over, and I'm hoping it leads to more stuff happening at the grassroots level, because we got to build this up brick by brick, Robbo.
Well, I mean, not to be quoting those AOS players, but maybe we all got to turn up a little bit. Maybe it's that. It's super simple, but it doesn't sound like people are turning up. Like you did say, you know, behind the scenes, you said you didn't think SBOT 2 would be as popular as SBOT 1, but the fact that it's grown
totally took me by surprise.
That's great for the community. That's a great signal. It's a great indicator that a lot of people want to get out there. I am still constantly amazed with just how more popular it's getting every day. So like, even though I did say it was going to, I'm still like, oh, it is. That's insane.
And I don't know if I said the number out loud, but we started clicking go with about 140 people involved for the SBOT 2.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. In fact, it's probably larger than the format we designed can handle. So we'll see how this all goes. Yeah, no, just overwhelmed by the support, both by the people interested in playing and the people helping to make it happen. So looking really great for SBOT 2. Can't wait to see what's going on there. We'll also, there's going to be lots of coverage. I think Ed on Close Order is really excited about doing some detailed coverage of it, because I think we're starting to see now too some, just very, very taking a glance at things, it's looking like people are starting to do some more wild stuff. So
could you give me an example of what that looks like?
Oh, I just mean like very large, like people starting to like bring very large, like mixed units. Just starting to experiment more, I think, with list building.
Okay.
And develop more. One thing that happened though is that the way we broke down our sort of initial groups, and in the future, this is definitely going to be a note for myself. Is I just sort of took people as they came in and put them into groups in order, essentially. Pardon me. The issue there is that all of the horniest people, all the people who were like the most fired up, the most engaged, wound up in the same groups, and a lot of those are the stone cold killers. So we have some groups of death going on. Okay. Europe 1 looks quite deadly. North America 1 also quite deadly. So I'll be very interested to see who actually comes out of those to get into the top 16. It's gonna be a fight.
I mean, that's a good thing though for those people though, because then they're put into a group of people that more fit their vibe, right? Mm-hmm. As an example, and then a bunch of people who are just trying to learn, practice, maybe going into some of the softer groups and then being softies together. That's great. Okay, that's a really healthy thing. That's positive.
Something that I think in my 40K days I was rather outspoken about, and now that we're like big time organizers here, Rob, I think we got to start putting our money where our mouth is, or at least I do, which is just the idea of pre-tournament seeding. We have already a lot of information, even looking back to SBOT 1, of like who players are and like where their relative skill levels are. There's we can definitely get to a place where we can set things up so that, people are paired a little closer to skill level from hop rather than even needing to do the first 3 rounds. So I think the good news is though, and I saw this in real life and here, is that there's a lot of earnest wanting to get better. And so, the skilled players, like if there is a skill mismatch, often that does result in sort of a lot of learning. And that's good. I think people are still quite open-minded about that, which is wonderful.
That is great. Okay, so we're going to be talking about, so that's kicking off, and you'll be able to find out that. Well, we'll also bring you information from that every week over the next couple of weeks, which will be cool, which is fun. And then we're going to be talking about the event you just ran. I have some updates, even though I have been sick.
Hold on a second, Rob. You have updates?
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah,
like basically related to like hallucinations you had in the last week, or
yeah, exactly that actually. Okay, I'm still not allowed to cough too much, so let's all just be kind to me. So I have in November I got a sold out normal old world event, which is cool. Although I am thinking of bringing some additional stuff to that event and make it a little bit more spicy. But I did just send out the pack yesterday for our Rivers event, so the War for the Riverlands. So this is an event that we're running in November, and I sent the pack already to, me and Val already had to talk about the pack a couple of days ago. But if you've not been kept up or you've not been keeping up, we've got a sold out event. Love that. Great energy. Then thank you to the community who wants to join me. And we're just sticking a river on the board, and then we're given the river special rules, and I've written a pack for the river, and the idea is that it is a I guess it's a themed event. I think narrative's the wrong word. I think it's a themed event, and I think Old World fits so well with doing a themed event. Your suggestion, because we talked about a bunch of stuff yesterday, maybe we'll talk about that after. I'll carry on with what I'm talking now. Yeah. But anyway, it's a themed event, and the idea is every single round there'll be a river, and the river will have changing rules and also some static rules as well, so which we could go over. But the kind of update, so the pack's done, great. The maps are not done yet, and that's because, here's the update, we've got the first of our river pieces, so we're designing our own like river set, which we're going to print and paint for every single board. So the boards that we have here. So that's cool. So that's our first piece. That's our like test piece.
That's a good looking river, Rob.
It's a good looking river. There's a couple of amendments I'd like to make to it, but I think it's a pretty fun looking river. So That's cool.
That's a frothy, bubbly river, is what that is.
Well, I quite like the idea of the bubbles because, like, some of them, like, I might paint up as like rivers of blood or rivers of ooze, versus because the idea is it is a magical river, right? So that's the fun thing. And then there are some river rules. Do you want to quickly go through the river rules? Should we do that?
Sure. Yeah, if you want.
Okay, quickly. River piece is broken into two parts. There's the banks or the river. Discuss with your opponent exactly where you draw the line before you play. The banks are treated as low linear obstacles. The river part is dangerous. The whole piece counts as cover to any units behind it. And all of these have a reason. The cover to units behind it is so that shooting armies can't just be like, ha, in order to walk to me, you must be dangerous. I'm like, well, there's cover there. That's going to help. The river is magical. As the river is magical, no units can fly over it due to its powerful arcane nature. Because it's a magical river, or a canal, I guess, technically. Any charge that
magic canal.
Yeah, magic canal. Any charge that could benefit from the Swift Stride rule when that charge starts or will pass across the river is not able to use the rule, probably because of magic for some reason. And then the river is magical and therefore it's not a natural piece of terrain. Fuck you, Green Knights. And at the end of the battle, the army with the most models on or within an inch of the river gains 200 victory points. And then there's some special rules every round for what the river does. So it's like a boiling flood, a necrotic ooze, a raging torrent, which I've lifted from like the 8th edition book.
Yes, I wondered if that was where they were from. Yes,
I changed the last one, I think, but I know some people are quite excited about this. The bit at the end, I'm really excited about. The 200 VP, we'll see. But the idea for this is that it impacts the game. I understand that is going to impact the game. The intent is that it impacts the game. Everyone who signed up to the event, which again is sold out, knows that it's going to impact the game. Like, they were like, we know what the plan is. The plan is to impact the game. And so, I was trying to like kind of do some meta fixing a little bit. I'm like, oh, do you know what? Flying units can't fly across it, so they're not quite as fast. So that's good. You can't Swift Stride a charge across it. That's good. But you're going to have to go to the riverbank at least to try and hold it to get some victory points. And then, gun lines hopefully aren't as strong shooting across it. That's the idea. Anyway, that event, I'll obviously be bringing a tournament report from that event when the event happens, which is it's the end of November. So we are like 6 weeks away or 4 weeks away. But yeah, that's it. That's my update, which is cool. And I'm super excited about it. I'm really excited about building all the rivers. And then we're going to do one next quarter where I'm then going to have a bridge designed.
I was going to ask, has you got some bridges, maybe some fords?
Yeah, maybe a ford. Maybe a ford makes a lot more sense. Like, what's fun is being able to design this. So if we just go back just real quick, look at this, the test piece, I actually gave some feedback in the left-hand side of this bit of river. The rocks are too rocky. And I was like, they can't be this rocky. They got to be a little bit more flat. And the designer was like, that's boring. I'm like, I know, but you got to be able to move a tray of models over it. You got to be able to play something. And he was like, okay, it's a little bit too rocky. So hopefully that should work, which would be fun.
I think it's super fun. I think another thing too is this is in the context of a venue that's running regular events where lots of people are coming back. So changing up your format, adding a sweet extra piece of terrain like a river is awesome. I really, really like it. I think it's exciting. I can't wait to see how people do. You know full well, Rob, I am a fan of rivers. I myself am a river owner. I have a painted river as well. I can't wait to see how it all pans out and if people have a good time. I assume they will. I think they will. I think there'll be loads of feedback, and I think that'll be the most exciting thing is having 24. We do have I do around the TSN Arena. I want to thank everyone that does come to my events. I have a really active, healthy community, and the thing is, I don't just want to be doing the same thing every time. Even though I know, ultimately they're buying a ticket to play 5 games of Old World. That's what they're doing, right? Yeah. Which is so okay. What else do I need to be doing? But the real answer is what else do I want to be doing? And I do want to be creating themed boards, themed events as well, because the Old World has got so much narrative. It's got so much that you can build into while still having a match play event. We've done a team event. Maybe we'll do doubles next year. I'd like to do another team event.
So like, there's a lot of stuff that you can do inside the format, and also create a couple of formats as well. And I think I am very interested at the moment in creating formats. Speaking of creating formats, I had a big conversation yesterday about Highlander.
There can only be one.
There can only be one as a format, which is the idea is that, and Highlander is an old format idea where you kind of limit army building even more. Sometimes you don't have named characters as a version. Sometimes you only have like one of each type of unit.
That's generally what Highlander is. Was one of each unit allowed. So you have 0 to 1 everything.
Yes, exactly. Ultimately, that's an interesting format, which again, I think I'd like to try and run a Highlander Old World event just to see and like give people the opportunity to be expressive inside the format as well. Because we don't need to always just do straight match play, right?
Doesn't always have to be jazz. Sometimes it can be a haiku too, you give yourself some design restrictions and see what flows out of it. I personally I've played in some 40K Highlander events over the years. I've always liked them. I think if you're a member of the Grumpy Casual set, I think Highlander is actually a really great way to just wind up with lists that just look sort of more diverse and interesting. I don't know really what the gameplay difference is, but I think it's good. In Old World, there's a thing where there are certain units in the game that come from a unit sheet. What do we call individual unit sheets in Old World?
A unit card, because they're called like battle scrolls. They're called data sheets, but I don't know if there isn't unit entry.
Unit entry, I think, is probably something, or unit card. Anyway, that are actually, they're really a bunch of different units on one. Like the Orc Boys one is like that. It's Error Boys. It's Savage Orcs. It's regular boys. It's Biggins. It's like 10 units on one thing, depending on how they're equipped. So I think pretty easily, if you were doing a Highlander format, you could make allowances for situations like that. So that way, some armies like demons would struggle real hard to fill their core if they didn't have some allowances. So I think Highlander's awesome, actually. And there's an event coming up in Ontario, 1,500 points of Highlander in Ottawa. I'm sure you could find it if you went looking for it, coming up in November. So I'd be curious to watch that one, see how that actually pans out for Old World and how people enjoy it. But yeah, I think fun formats are great. Really, what it is it's about getting people out, right? Like, so if Highlander's gonna if spicing up your formats as an organizer, as a TO, wherever you are, getting those people out, if that's gonna get folks excited, if a narrative little event day is gonna get folks excited. I know here we have an organizer named Raf who was at our event. He wants to put together a narrative event that I'm interested in going to because I've never done one like that.
Ooh.
So really anything. I think we do get really obsessed with I think whether or not to change the game or and I think that has a lot to do with your more of your standard tournament format. What should that be? What should that look at? What mission should we be playing? Should we just be playing raw from the book? Not that it's possible, really, because the book needs some work. However, I think we can also just forget about that too sometimes and just go out and have fun in ways that people want to have fun. Right? You
just told me what your favorite format. Can you tell me your favorite format, which I think is great?
Oh, my favorite. This is just a format idea, folks, and we need a cool name for it. Maybe like Excalibur or something. And I've offhandedly mentioned it on this very show, but the concept is simply the only list building thing is that you have to bring your most expensive magic weapon. So every army has a dumb magic weapon that's like 75 points that has some random mechanics in it that are silly, and you read it and you're like, yeah, I guess that's cool. It's pretty cool, and it's usually kind of more of a penalty. But it would be funny if everyone had to use their big dumb sword. Like I know the orc one is awesome. So yeah, most expensive. weapon must be brought. And that also forces everyone to bring a combat lord, pretty much, because all of them are more than 50 points, as far as I know. So that's fun. This is also why I brought a blender vampire count on a zombie dragon this past weekend.
Well, that's perfect. A perfect segue. I have just come up with an idea for a format in my own head, by the way. I was like, do you want to hear my new format idea? Like, I'm definitely going to run one of these next year.
Yes, go ahead.
4 rounds only for 3,000 points. You just play for like 3.5 hours. You just play 2 games a day at like 3,000 points, maybe 3,500 points, maybe like go all in. That would be a sick event.
When we first started doing our format, we called it the SBS, the Square Base Standard, of whom the only person, including ourselves, I've ever seen use it is Lionel at X-Planet Games. All of the Facebook events for it are Old World SBS, and I'm like, no one knows what you're talking about because we completely abandoned that naming convention immediately after thinking about it. But I've always loved the idea of doing SBXL. And that
SBXL, nice.
SBXL. So then we get like a large format. Maybe it's like 2,999 or something like that. Or maybe just screw it. Just go full 3K. So that way, it's just fully opened up. Allow allies.
Can I interest you in 3,999?
4,000? We can do a 4,000 doubles, 2 tables. So like it's double everything.
Jesus, that would take. So you could only do 4 rounds then. That would take forever.
It's probably more like a 2-round option. The 3-day 2-round event. 4,000 works. The one actually, shout out to my homies who kept the 8th edition for life. That's an actual forum up and running. The first fantasy event I ever went to was at Du Bois in Rochester. I think they're actually running it this year too. I think it's under new management, but Du Bois
runs every year. I don't know if it runs fantasy every year.
It does run every year, but the fantasy element left last year. They split off, but they're back this year. I think you probably could get tickets if you want to look it up. Du Bois in upstate New York. Anyway, the digression is because what they did for that event was an escalation tournament. So we started the event with 500 points or 1,000. It was 1,000 point list in something called Triumph and Treachery, which is a multiplayer way of playing Warhammer 8th edition, which I really want to port over to. That'd be a great thing to have some rules up on our site for. Triumph and Treachery is so much fun for getting people into the game, by the way, guys. It's just sort of a multiplayer, screw over your friends kind of game. It's great. And then from there, we went 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 2,500. So it was 4 rounds, I want to say. I think that was 4 rounds, but the army escalated during the event, and it was super fun. So I think, whether or not you go with a big format or sort of an escalating format, especially these RTTs, guys, like if you're getting together for one day, there's no reason not to do fun stuff. And it also, as a TO, allows you to, keep it fresh, keep it interesting, and get people excited for whatever the new idea is for next month,
Yeah, I think that's the idea. I think people motivated to be like, do you know what, that's a cool thing I could do with my army, I think would be really positive. So I'm excited about that. Okay, cool. So with all that said and done, there was a Square Base Standard event that occurred this weekend.
Indeed.
Over in Tirani. So talk to us about the event and how it went. I won't be so broad with those questions. How many people turned up over your 2-day 5-round event, and what was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, well, we had 60 room for 60. We actually kissed. We flew up to the sun, and then we backed off a bit because life happens. There were some drops. We wound up going on day 1 with 50, including myself as the ringer. Which, by the way, Rob, the most luxurious way to play in a Warhammer event is as the ringer, because I also had access to BCP, the thing that we used to organize the event. So I was just changing my table to the same one every round. I didn't move once.
You're wrong. The most luxurious way to play Warhammer is being a ringer at your own event in your own venue.
That's true. That's true.
I just pitch up with my feet on the table. I'm like,
And then people are like, "Do you live here?" And you're like, "No,
kind of,
sort of."
Anyway, sorry, but yeah. So you were the ringer. Ringer, for people who might not be aware, is being a spare player.
Yeah. So if you wind up with an uneven amount of players, you want to be able, you don't want someone to have to sit out every round, which does happen. I mean, again, sometimes if it's a smaller event, you just don't have someone spare to be able to do that. But in this case, I was happy to just play that role, and it was really great. I got to get 3 games in, and it let me make sure that my focus was on giving my opponent a good game rather than sweating and trying way too hard. And I think it did reduce my moaning. However, I will say in my second game with Tim, dear friend, local here in Toronto, that I did get still, even though it was a low stakes game, still got a bit salty about some magic dice rolls. But I recovered quickly. He brought out a car pop. Tim is always has some pops that he's got in his car. Actual pop, not beer. It's just like Coke that he keeps in his trunk. So
he was like, "You're getting a bit ratty. You've got to hold on here." So he went outside. He went outside, got a Coke, came in, and was like, "This is for you, sunshine.
This is for you." Yeah, and it just turned everything around. I got to play Cleary again, who's someone who I played at Capital City Bloodbath, and he was playing Mortuary Cults in the first round, and it was great. It was clear. I think he was new to Mortuary Cults, which have a lot of orders of operations. And I have to say, folks, he did a really awesome thing. Like he had basically a cheat sheet with him that was color coded and sequenced, so that as he was going through his turn, he was able to keep track. Our first game was a bit slow as a result of that. Actually, it was really great. I think it was great for both of us that he was paired into me, because I was learning vampire counts and he was sort of getting his feet under him with Mortuary Cults. He went on to have a great event, but I was really impressed with how he sort of brought the right tools to be able to do things. And I'm sure as he got some reps in, he got quicker with it and didn't have to lean on it as much, which was great. And then in my final game of day one, which wound up being my last game, I played a guy named Andrew. Andrew was running orcs and orcs. I don't think he had a single goblin. Maybe he had a goblin. No, he didn't. It was all orcs. It was black orcs. And it was a game that looked like a game of Warhammer Fantasy. Do you happen to have the pictures? Those 3 pictures I shared of that one.
Okay,
because I want to show you some. First time I ever pulled this off, and I was so proud of myself. And what we're seeing here, guys, is that at the far end of the picture, we've got a vampire lord on a zombie dragon, with no ward save. He's just balls. That's all he's got. Because I had loaded him up with the Ogre Blade and Lore of Illusion, and I gave him an extra wizard level so he could cast Doppelganger, which gives him, if you get it off, 2d6 Ogre Blade strikes. And this guy managed to get a flank charge on this giant, and this is really what I want to toot my own horn about, because I kill that giant and I overrun into an ongoing combat with the Wyvern, which was the previous picture you showed.
Yep.
And boom, there you go. That's it. That made my whole weekend. I set up an overrun double combat. So that meant that I got to fight in the combat with the vampire lord after he killed the giant. I felt like the biggest brain. It was 4D chess. Andrew was like, "Mate, you're amazing." I was like, "I know." That didn't happen. Actually, Andrew was in from Pittsburgh, although he constantly was pointing out that he was from Philadelphia. But he lives in Pittsburgh, which is,
you don't want to be
tough.
From Pittsburgh. You can live there, but be from
especially
there.
If you're from Philly. If you're from Philly, but you live in Pittsburgh, you kind of have to say that as you enter conversations. It's what he does. So it's like a 6 hour drive for him. And I had his army was absolutely beautiful, and we had a stonking good time. He didn't get perhaps the scorecard results, but that's okay. I think he's just been biding his time painting up this beautiful, almost entirely metal orc army that had, I guess he did have some goblins in the war machines, but anyway, we had a lovely time. Super, super easygoing game, and just a nice way to end it. And then and then a bunch of us got to go out for dinner. It was nice.
That's wonderful. Okay, so what was the atmosphere like? What was the energy in the room? Because obviously, like, there haven't been a ton of Old World events over in in US and NA. So what is the energy like there?
The energy, it was super awesome. So we had a really nice room. It was just sort of, I don't know how to describe, like a hard loft industrial space. Essentially, it was like an old factory, I guess, that's been turned into sort of a bunch of a place for people to have different businesses. This is about a third of the room. We were in the space with a 40K event, and a Horus Heresy event was actually right next door to us, which was really cool to see as well. Up until about a week ago, we were bigger than the 40K side. And I just need to take a quick pause.
So we had this big, large room, pretty cool. That's fun. It looks like some good energy. Terrain was provided by a bunch of different local TOs and other people, and you did have a TO helping you run the event, right?
Yes, actually, big shout outs there. So Andrew Atkins, who ran Capital City Bloodbath in Ottawa, showed up big and brought 20 tables of terrain. So the vast majority of the terrain was actually from Andrew. I think they played very nice. They're really pretty. Put a lot of work into them. They were asymmetrical as well, so we did have some custom design maps for our events. So we still use the terrain picking system, trademark, but we used one specific to the sort of the terrain supply we had here. And then Eric's Hobby Workshop, who was Eric there. Shout out Eric, came in 8th, I think, overall, maybe.
Oh, that's fantastic.
He was really excited about that. Playing as Bretonians helped me with some hills for the tables that I brought. So after this is done, I'll wind up having the ability to deploy 10 good tables of old world terrain, which is fantastic. And yeah, so that's just very, very exciting. So between myself and Andrew Atkins, we can deploy a 60 person event anywhere in Southern Ontario, which is great. And then of course we had us in Patreon, in the Patreon Discord. Shane IRL, who's a local Warhammer, the old world hero. He was my day of judge, and he was just flying around making plays. One of the things that was really interesting is because it's a very new game, and because I think this was had a painting requirement, so a lot of people were really focused on getting their army ready enough to play. Mm-hmm. And I think that's actually one of the good reasons to have GTs with a painting requirement, is because it really, I think, energized a lot of people to get it ready. And they had enough warning to do that. And that was really, really cool. I think it is why I wasn't able to fill a lot of spots at last second, because just people don't have a lot of armies painted yet. And so they had to get it ready for this. But I think that's the more of these that we have, these big sort of tentpole moments that really get people going. Now there's going to be a lot of folks out there who have this beautiful army on their shelf, and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, let's go. I got to use this now." And so I think it'll help. I'm also hoping that a few members of this event will go home to wherever they are, and still have that itch, and maybe start building up some local events, or trying to find events in our region. I know we got some single day RTTs coming up. I'm hoping their numbers get better. All that kind of stuff. I know that's what's happened here from the events that I've run, like community spread. Like I've spawned like 5 YouTubers, which is fantastic. It's hilarious. Yes, I love it. Actually, I love that. Shout out to all of those guys. Love you to pieces. Right. So talking about beautiful armies, though, some people just grinding them out, trying to get them ready, and some people creating fantastic works of art. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to showcase some of these here. You can kind of let me know. So there were 3 armies that got kind of big nominations. So this is a beautiful demon army by Danny. Yeah, this is Danny McDonald. Danny, if you guys remember, deep in the lore of the show, when Rob and I covered Capital City Bloodbath, I want to say in 2022, Danny was the shell shock TO that I kept harassing and doing sideline commentary with. Danny runs events constantly. He's the guy running the Highlander, I'm pretty sure, in Ottawa. And he's got this beautiful demon army. The only photo I took when I was at Capital City Bloodbath was that Bloodthirster versus a Bretonnian like Baron on a Pegasus, because it was just so sick. It was like incredible to see. I guess that's the old Forge World Bloodthirster, I assume.
It is. It's the exalted Bloodthirster.
Yeah, he's just so cool. And we got a Soul Grinder, and it's just a really, really pretty list. So this wound up winning Best Painted, because the Squigtonians, run by Caleb Edwards, actually took the best overall. He was most bassed.
Could you explain the best overall? That's a culmination of sports, paint, and gaming?
Yes, and actually aided by technology. We used an online forum to submit everything, and I think it worked pretty smoothly. Here it is, the Squigtonians. So yeah, it's a combination of painting, battle, and sports. Paint and sports were both wisdom of crowds. They were both votes. You did a ranked ballot, and we turned that into a score. Overall was weighted 60-40, so 60% your battle score, 20% your paint score, 20% your sports score. So you had to do well in all of those. I believe he went 4-1, so it's not like he did poorly at all during the weekend. But I mean, look at these guys. I've been watching these Caleb's a good friend of mine, and I've been watching him make these over the last few months, and it's just been a lot of fun seeing this army come together. Everything is Squig themed, and just really, really awesome. I absolutely love this army.
And then there was also, off the back of this, something, we got a Ravaging Bassness award.
Yeah, Ravaging Bassness. This would be for the highest placed Ravaging Hordes list, so bad guy list. We also had the Forces of Bassness and Renegades of Bass were the three sort of ones like that. This is from Claudio, who's a fella in the local scene, and I played this army, one of the earliest iterations of it, in my first Old World event over here. I did beat it. I don't think I would beat him anymore because he was undefeated with a draw, so he didn't get he didn't quite get it. But holy cow, did he have a hot weekend with a hot army? It's all Kiss themed. It's incredible. I absolutely love this. Photographed really nicely too. I got his boudoir shots of the army, and this is Seawolves.
Yeah, the Seawolf from the Arcane Journal.
That's right. So that's pretty cool. So he was using the hot new tech, and I think he surprised himself going into this event. He described this as a meme list. He thought he'd be lucky to win a single round, let alone do as well as he did. So he was really, really pleased with how things went, and I think he should be. It looked friggin' fantastic.
Well, so let's talk about the winners. Being the first kind of like big event that you've run, were you focused on like best overall? Obviously, a massive congratulations for that. Is Caleb won best overall, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's obviously like the pinnacle prize, I think. But how were you feeling going into the event? Were you focused on the best overall? Obviously you're super excited about gamesmanship. I think like any individual award is really, really important. Like best sports, coolest army, being the best general, all three to me are of equal standing. Maybe best sports probably the best one. Best overall is like the pinnacle of that. But were you hyper focused on like the meta? Did you feel like it was, like a sweat fest, or were you like, I think a lot of people turned up just trying to have their first old world experiences? What was your kind of vibe on that?
I would say there were people who were sweaty as hell, but they were having a blast. Like there were tons of folks there who came there for the gaming, and still brought pretty lists and stuff like that. But we had some tuned up lists. The meta, if you remember from the last show, was really skewed towards high elves and as well as Warriors of Chaos. So we did see certainly Warriors of Chaos. They wound up taking the best general. Adam Slutsky wound up best general. This was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Shane's pre-event call. That was our judge. So maybe let's listen to him in
the future, shall we?
Yes, I think so. But also, there are players in our region that have been focused really on repping the game, and getting those practice rounds in, trying to get better at it. He was running a list that didn't have the dragon. I am because I was slumming on the on the bottom tables, I actually don't know a lot about Adam's powerhouse list. But he did rise to the top, and he did wind up taking it down. You can see the lists. I did promise a link last week. How about I actually give you a link this week?
Okay.
With the list, and also a link to Best Coast pairings. If you have a sub, you can definitely go look at them on Best Coast pairings for the Square-based Open Toronto. I would say though that a lot of folks came and the first round or two. Shane was definitely getting his steps in because he was running around all over asking sort of a lot of basic questions. I think it's a lot of how you found your first couple of events. People starting to understand how the game actually works once it's on the table, and coming to the consensus of how things actually do work is important. And so I think a lot of people did use it as an opportunity to learn the game a little bit better and get guaranteed 5 games and probably came out of it knowing a lot more about Old World and how it works and how it feels when you're actually playing it than they did when they started. And that's fantastic. I think a lot of folks are really nervous about going to an event because they don't know what they're doing. And I don't think necessarily, yes, you have a time restriction, but for the most part, guys, like the game plays pretty quick, and odds are both players aren't going to be in that situation. So you'll have someone who's there to sort of help you along in the game. And luckily it is a game of skill. So they'll probably win, but you'll learn. And that's a fantastic value proposition for me for going to events.
Do you think it's given you, because you have this really interesting like dichotomous kind of relationship right now with Old World as a meta game? Obviously we spend a lot of time covering like, tournament stuff, not as much as maybe we could, but I think like my personal feedback from running the events, and I think maybe that's why I've cooled my jets on it a tad, and maybe now you've started to have these feelings, is that like, it feels like still now there's just a lot of people just getting themselves out there. There's a lot of just getting the armies ready, 100%. Did that reinforce itself to you this weekend? Were you struck by that, or were you like, kind of like, oh, actually, maybe because the online, like, you don't need to produce the minis, you can just grind all day kind of environment. It's very different to I've had to paint up my army over the past 6 months. It's a very different energy level. How do you feel about that dichotomy at the moment, and maybe the online discourse around, tournament gaming?
Yeah, but I mean, we're outspoken about this. I think the online discourse about tournament gaming for the most part is a lot of fear mongering about how terrible a time you're going to have, and I think that's misplaced and awful. You're going to go and you're going to meet people. And yeah, you might lose bad to a list you don't particularly like, but odds are you're going to play a bunch of games against, and you're going to probably make friends and have more people to play games with. So that's what I think about tournaments. And I appreciate the folks who try hard at the game too. But I think for the most part, tournaments are about building community and meeting people who are into the same weird thing that you're into. That's what an event's all about, guys. And then I think what you're getting at is, there's a lot of pressure, I think, on some TOs to either do nothing, don't touch it, don't make modifications to the game, or to add a lot of comp to address stuff that those of us that have been playing a lot have found a little bit, annoying or lacking in the game. And I think we've done a good job of fighting that instinct. This pack for the Square-based Open Toronto, if you're a tournament organizer, I think is a pretty good one. And I think the fact that the FAQ that we have strikes a balance between answering the questions that are somewhat unanswerable, and providing guidance on what, like, maybe an agreeable ground that people can use to solve some problems, like around skirmishers and other situations. And then as well as the format that we use with the, rule of 6 for core, 3 for everything else, and no allies, I think provides sort of a good foundation for people to start with the game with. And I think is probably still enough. Some people would say it's too much. Some people would say it's not enough. And I think that's perfect, actually. I think we kind of have a Goldilocks format where we're doing enough to make the game more playable and interesting. The missions that we ran here were essentially all open battle, but I did take the deployment maps from the other ones, so that there was a variety in deployment, which changes how the game works significantly, despite it just being kill points. We added in the scoring the ability to get, again, they were pretty minor tweaks, but they just maybe are aimed at a bit more of like a feel good moment. So you got 50 points if you killed a monster. If you killed a monster down to 25% of its wounds, as I pointed out in a previous show, you don't normally get the points for that. We just changed it so that, you get the points for that, just like what if you kill a unit at 25%.
Well, yeah, you were just saying that you like our format, which is great, obviously, because our format's excellent as well. And we're going to start expanding our format. Maybe me and Val will go away and create I think on the webpage, I can have this this week, next week, I can have updated our different rule sets for Square Base Standard, Square Base XL, and Square Base Magic Weapon.
Silly.
Square Base Excalibur. Is that what it's called?
we need for one big sword. And we have been threatening to put up all of our TO resources in one spot.
Let's do it
for a while. I think that would be really, really good. I think, again, whatever makes it easier for TOs, I think is a good thing to have up there. If you wanted to use our pack, I think I was talking about our missions, again, pretty straightforward stuff. That I think is good for getting people into the game. And maybe at some point we'll see, the long rumored sort of match play format from the studio itself. That would be really, really great. And hopefully a nice healthy pass of errata at some point to address some of those sort of fundamental issues that we've been seeing with things that just don't work. Aside from the infantry not being so great and, certain things being a little more powerful than maybe we would like. Be great to see just a cleanup of certain core rules, and maybe we get that. Maybe we get that. I'd say January-ish, probably around the anniversary of the game. That would be good.
I think that'd be really fun as well. Super fun. Okay, cool. I think that it's really exciting that the event happened. I'm a little gutted.
Yeah.
I'm a little gutted. Well, no, I'm not a little
You're
gutted.
gutted.
I'm actually devastated.
Yes.
But just to round us off, not my last opportunity to come to Canada, because we might be doing a team event in spring.
So there's the Canhammer Team Tournament, which is rumored to include Old World in, I guess it'll be in May. And then I'd be looking to run another one of these, hopefully somewhere in the spring as well. So maybe more of an April. So we shall see what the future brings. And of course, we've got the online stuff going on as well if you need to scratch your itch that way. But nothing's better than IRL with some minis on the table and some friends around. I think that's the best way to play the game. But the SBot is a pretty cool way to get games in as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks to Val. Whenever I do an AOS Stat Center show, I always thank the TOs for organizing it, because I think that's important.
Thanks to Shane then. Thanks to Shane.
Thanks to Shane. Shout out to Shane, but also thanks to all your attendees, because I am in the WhatsApp group for that event now. So now I know how you feel being like in another continent and just having people consistently talking. So that's really fun, and it does seem like everyone is really enthused and they're excited about more events. And I think that's the kind of that's a good thing that these events are doing. They're building our community.
Actually, if I could shout that out for any organizers out there, this is something Rob does. And in case you haven't seen it before, but Rob for his events at the TSN, if you join it up, you get added to this WhatsApp chat. And that WhatsApp chat then becomes fuel for, talking about the event that's coming up, asking basic questions for participation, all that kind of useful logistical stuff.
Asking you where the pack is every week.
Asking you where the pack is. Where is the pack? When do release the pack? However, then it becomes its own little community of people who are more local to each other, who are then going to build connections with one another, and also provide excitement for future events that might be coming up, share other things that are happening or that aren't just, now, I've been sharing RTTs. Other people have been sharing RTTs. It's a good way, again, to build sort of local community. And so I stole that idea from Rob. I highly recommend it. Anyone else out there to do the same. And it just sort of creates a little, someone did roll their eyes at me. I was like, there's some fundamental question that we'd answered in the chat. And I was like, are you in the WhatsApp group? He's like, I don't need another WhatsApp group. I was like, okay, cool. Chill, homie. Well, that's why you don't know the answer to your dumb question, just so you know.
You dumb bitch.
How about those emails, too?
Thank you to everyone in the Squarebase community. We will be back to regular content now that both of us are both of us have got. There's been some stuff over the past.
We've had some stuff going on, and yet we're still here. We're still here.
Some stuff. So my love to all of you. Just stay square, stay blessed, and just go out and have fun. Loads of love from us. See you guys soon. Goodbye.